Hey, assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everybody. This is Gunjur Online TV. Today we are 1 hour late for a reason, really. We just thought something's come up, so instead of the usual 7 o'clock slot, we started an hour later today. Uh, our usual host, Mr. Manjang, also can't join us today due to some unforeseen circumstances. But I'm here with Dr. Conte, and my dad, Bankas, will be joining us very shortly too. Yes, so just like you normally do, this is an interactive program. We like it to be interactive, so we will be we actually look forward to people sending in comments or asking questions or making suggestions. Just the normal how we normally do it. So, like I said, it's 1 hour later today, but it's all good. So, what we will talk about, I mean, usually the format we have is Mr. Manja will give what's it called, a COVID daily report or weekly report from the Gambia. We don't have that today. It's just, but it's all good anyway. So we're still going to be talking about the situation of COVID in the Gambia and in the whole world as well, but particularly has it, how it concerns and how it affects the Gambia. We're not unique in that way, but some of our challenges are quite unique to us. That's got to do with governance. It's got to do with administration. It's got to do with our economy, even our geography. So Dr. Conte is here. So he will probably, like we normally would do, gonna follow tradition. He can do an introduction of himself, and then we just have a discussion. Dr. Conte, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, my Mr. Manneh, DF Manneh, and my fellow Gambians, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Conteh, Gombo Bread, and we've been on this show for quite a while and trying to engage Gambians and friends of the Gambia about happenings in our country. And I think it is very important that we come together as one. But when we talk about this COVID-19, it has no political boundaries, no tribal or regional boundaries. And we've seen so many people who have died. So when we talk about human capital, we have lost a lot, whether Islamic scholars or educated folks. And likewise, men and women have died, and it is troubling. And in fact, even here in the United States, I was just telling someone that for this month of for the last month and this month of September, we have tragedy upon tragedy of Gambians dying, and so we hope our prayers go to their families, and please stay safe. In a sense, what I've also seen here is that even the pictures in the Gambia, some people are not wearing masks, and we should try to encourage our people to do so. This is even me, my class, I teach accounting and finance. I received an email, that one of my students, an online student, has the virus, and she even emailed me. So well, we have to keep those things confidential because you cannot reveal the name of the person. And the person indicated to me that they are in quarantine for 2 weeks. So this is something, thank God I only go out to class once a week, and I stay here to engage students via Zoom. So let's try to protect ourselves. But that's one area that I'm very, very concerned about, which is education. There has been rumor, that the schools would open soon, and the Minister of Education came out and said, don't believe in those rumors. But what I'm kind of concerned about is when will the schools be open, and if they open, what are the learning outcomes, and will the quality of education in the Gambia increase or decrease? That's my concern, particularly those students who are in the 9th grade and they're gonna take examination next year to go into 10th grade. I'm also concerned about the last exam, the WIAC examination. In this period of COVID, for me, I don't understand why the Ministry of Education would sanction students to take a WIAC examination, and I'm predicting, that the failure rate is going to be very high. As a matter of fact, the 2019 examination results have not been revealed fully. they only told us the top three successful students who had 9 A's and sorry, 9 credits, all A's, and then one had 8 credits and only one B. So, but they never gave us the rate. As you can see, even well before the COVID, the passage rate of Gambians, if you add a male and female, in both English and math was 3.5%. So, which means that Gambian kids are taking the WIAC examination, almost 96% either fail English or fail math. And then when we look at the 9th grade examination, we don't even have any report on that. And I think we need to be transparent in our delivery, helping others. But again, I engaged a Gambian professor and I told him, that since they have their classes online, if I can do anything, I will be more than happy to assist. Because we, and the person was very happy, and I sent the individual lecture notes. So this is one area that we can do to help our country, because this COVID has really created some new learning styles that most people were not anticipating, particularly in a country that you totally cannot rely on the internet. So, we all know that in the Gambia, the average person has at least 2 telephones. That would be a topic of discussion one day. But how about the kids who are taking classes online? When can they have access, and how long that duration? And the government has not even talked about that, because if you're gonna buy the service, whether it is limited. I know when I was in the Gambia, to even get on a site, it took almost 24 attempts to be successful. How about a student who is taking 1, 2, 3, 4 classes? In the Gambia, you know that some students take about even 9 subjects. So these are things that we need to talk about openly. When we talk about COVID, and also we look at the seriousness. Banjul, last time I checked, had 203 COVID cases. In my view, Banjul should be quarantined. I don't think there should be any movement in Banjul until this matter is reduced. And in fact, today, Dave, I don't know whether you saw it, in Point newspaper, they indicated that 100 Senegalese economic soldiers contracted, COVID. And these people are in the Gambia. So my question, is, did they travel to Senegal to bring this COVID to us? But if you go into Point newspaper, you'll see the news. So this is very troubling, and I hope we can come together. And I'm also looking at the loss of revenue in the Gambia. The Director General of the of Gambia Revenue Authority indicated, that for period end March 31, 2020, the country or the agency collected only 3 billion, and he was bragging about it. And I say, wait a minute. If the government had, budgeted 19 billion of domestic revenue for a 12-month period, meaning January 1 to December 31. Now you're telling me, that for the 3 months ending March 31, 2020, you were only able to collect 3 billion. So if we take 12 divided by 3, that's 4. We multiply that by 3, that is 12 billion. That is, if we use the average cost method, one can say that the Gambia at least will have 7 billion in deficit. Well, if you compound that with the COVID, I can estimate to you that the Gambia will have a budget shortfall of $12 billion. And if then that is the case, how will we be able to meet the services that our citizens need? So we are in a very tough period, but this government, when it comes to finance, I will talk about it. And I think that what is going to happen, we cannot be going out there begging the Europeans or other countries for money. We need to use our own creativity to be people of wisdom, perseverance, so that we can try to improve our resources. So look at Korea. Korea doesn't have any natural resources, but they have human capital. So I hope we in the Gambia can try to do such things so that we can be of competitive age, because the Gambia with a population of 2.5 billion and educated, if we have a good educated society, I think we can be competitive. Because it used to be Gambians who went to attend meetings, conferences with other African countries, whether it is ECOWAS or the AU. The Gambians actually shined, but nowadays what's happening, it's very sad, and I think we need to take a look at that. So I'm going to stop right there.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Conte. Yeah, yes. I think that has always been my issue with the current administration, if you want to call it that. I always thought that they had some time to be prepared. The thing is, if you know your own situation, you know your strengths and weaknesses, and we know as Gambians that economically we are not powerful at all. So that time when COVID was wreaking havoc in the West, England or America or other parts of the world, and Gambia was spared then, I think that's when our people should have done some preparation. And you can never protect yourself against it, but at least you could have put some mechanisms in place that could have lessened the effect of COVID on us, and that go to every sector of our country, from education to businesses. I mean, obviously, the Gambia hasn't got the capacity for all the kids, let's say, throughout the country to even have network connections. I mean, even if they have strong network connections, I mean, we have good penetration, but this is mostly data as well. But voice, this is voice rather. But when it comes to data, the penetration is very, very weak. I mean, even within Combo itself, you will struggle to have a very, very strong internet connection. I was in the Gambia last year from October to November for a month. And whilst I was there, I thought, oh, maybe I could jump on and do some work. It was just impossible. The only time I could work was at night, very late at night. So I mean, that's okay for somebody from the US or from Australia. Somebody who works in the UK going to the Gambia is just next to impossible. So I would have stayed there longer, but I couldn't. After 4 weeks, I had to come back because I had to come back to work. But going back to this lack of preparedness, there was no preparation. And I think that is unforgivable, really. And there should have been some mechanism put in place whereby the students and the pupils actually they should be able to continue getting an education. I mean, if you don't have a capacity, you don't have the technical backbone, we call it technological backbone, the infrastructural backbone for you to have enough data to penetrate the inner Gambia. Like I said, even Combo will struggle. So you can have other means. Let's use the television as an example. You have analog channels that are still in the Gambia. Okay, I mean here we use digital channels, and they have frequencies. You can have frequencies spared, and just frequencies whereby they're going to be dedicated to television communication, television broadcast for students in the Gambia, for kids from year one or whatever you call it now. I don't even know what they call them anymore. Been here for so long. I'm used to year 1 to year 6 or year 7, or primary 1 or whatever they call them. So they should be able to cover all of this. And the other day I was reading about Ghana, I think it's good for us to compare and contrast ourselves to people who are like us in some ways when it comes to history or politics. And you could say Ghana they might have a relatively stronger economy than us. They probably have relatively more technical advanced systems than we do in the Gambia. But they went into a partnership with America, some American charity, or what's it called, the state, I don't know what you call it. Is it the DFID or whatever? Anyway, one of the institutions in the US that helps with funds to give funds to countries around the world. USAID does it, yeah. So they were able to use the television, like I'm saying, they're using a specific television channel spectrum, whereby they're teaching the kids how to read. So they go little kids from kindergarten onwards every day. They go on a TV channel. It's on there, I think, every day in the morning for a few hours. And these kids are learning how to read and write. So they are not missing. They're not missing out. So these are some of the things you need in the Gambia if you know that you are quite technically challenged and economically actually even more challenged. So what you do is when COVID was wreaking havoc, you look at the videos. I mean, you watch TV news and you see these advanced economies. They're really struggling. and some of them had to cut. They have to close schools and colleges and offices. I mean, what are you gonna do? What are we gonna do to get ourselves prepared? If these very very powerful economies are struggling, what is gonna be the effect on us who are not that powerful? So there was a window of opportunity, and it was never taken, and I think it's unforgivable. Like, I do appreciate and I really like this, Dr. Conte, when you say like we've come to a situation in the Gambia whereby the COVID-19, not only the COVID-19, the whole Gambian socio economy, the whole Gambian society as a whole, uh, we are at a very critical juncture. So I do understand why sometimes you insist on us being apolitical, yeah, being non-partisan as well. And obviously, we all have parties we support. Mine is probably more radical than others, obviously. But I think we can never move away from the fact that this current administration, they're not fit for purpose in some ways. In lot of activities they do. When it comes to being prepared, I think they always fall short. And I think we beginning to see from last week or so very disturbing developments whereby you're getting the press and the media have been muzzled. And even today, I was shocked. Somebody sent me a video from the Gambia whereby today was the state. I don't know if it's the state of parliament, whatever they call it, National Assembly, but they were going to be discussing the new constitution, draft constitution, and only 3 media houses were allowed in. That's outrageous, really. You cannot have that. We've moved away from that. So we cannot have that. So when you talk about their unpreparedness for COVID, there's a bigger picture here. It's always a context. This context of like poor governance, poor administration, and then taking Gambian for a ride, really. I mean, if you just go cast your mind back to 22 years of dictatorship and the nightmare Gambians, and then 3 years ago with this euphoria and hope, that probably we've turned a new page, and then few years down the line, just to see only 3 media houses will be allowed into our national house of parliament, I think that's really outrageous. And then I keep on saying this, and somebody was joking to me, so Dave, you're becoming a litigant, like just like litigation for everything. But I think we need to empower civil society groups in the Gambia. We have to put our hands in our pocket and finance them. I think some of these things we would probably need to take the government to court to change their way. Really, I think we need to do that because the alternatives are not worth thinking about. We don't want to go into civil strife. That is something we need to move away from. So how can we put these people, keep them on their toes, is to use the legal mechanisms we have in the Gambia and use them effectively. And I was speaking to a school friend of mine, Madi Jobate. I don't mind dropping his name. He's my friend, really. Actually, Madi, what can we do so that the civil society groups in the Gambia can be more empowered and they can work in collaboration with lawyers and the legal, the legal profession in the Gambia, whereby some of the excesses that have become in the Gambia, they become so ingrained, we can try to put them to rest for once and for all. Because the whole idea of the new Gambia is like for us to turn a new page. But it seems like it's a case of like 2 steps forward and 3 steps backwards. I think we should not accept that. I'm not too sure what they could have done today, but the 3 media houses that went into that parliament today, I think it was a massive betrayal to their fraternity. I think they should have said no. We work as a media corps, like we call it in the UK, the press corps, whatever. We go as a group. If we have to selectively choose just 3 of us to go in, we definitely reject this completely. So, but he didn't see that there. So I think it was GRTS and then what's it called, QTV in and another one. So they accepted to go in while the rest of their media crew, media fraternity, were they couldn't get in. I think that's outrageous. So they needed to have come together today and be in solidarity with the rest of their fraternity to say no, it's either all of us or none of us. So I think that's a very, very disturbing situation development today. I think going back to Mr. Eso Williams, who did a very brilliant interview, and for some reason somebody tried to stop it being broadcast in the Gambia, to even take it off YouTube, if I got this right, on YouTube. And I went through that interview, and I think this guy, not only is he eloquent, he understands the Gambia situation. Really, really, he does. Yeah. So you could see he's a trained journalist, very, very he's a professional at the very, very He's at the epic of his profession, you could say that. But he's got a critical eye. He's got a very, he analyzed the Gambian socio-politics. He actually analyzed the Gambian culture. And then I think his views on them, I think they're very, very correct. And just the fact that somebody should feel threatened that they wanted to muzzle him, I think that should be a cause of concern to all of us, Dr. Conte. I think I'll stop for now. If you would like to chip in, please. Thank you.
Well, you just reminded me, even during the times I was in the Gambia as a youngster, trying to run as a candidate for NCP in Combo East. We went through the same similar things. They will use your family members, even your own daddy, to come and try to dissuade you. They will call the chiefs to come and trying to dissuade you. And so when Jammeh was in power, the same thing. They will send family members to you to discourage you from criticizing Jammeh. And now they're doing the same thing. So that's why when we had our show the last time, I emphatically stated, that we need political education, because politics is not about humiliation. Politics basically is about cohesion, and it's also about engaging people. You can be a best friend to someone, but you may have different political views. But that doesn't mean that you should be different. You should fight and argue. I want to borrow a page here, because I want to say something here. When I was a youngster, going to St. Augustine's High School, and we had a man who was the brother of Sadauda, and we used to go to his compound, and we all used to sit down, talk, argue about stuff. And the man would always laugh, and then we used to say to him that you were NCP. And the man would never, Sadauda's own brother would never say no, he wasn't. And then he would invite us for dinner. And this kept on going on and on and on and so forth. So those were the times where people could engage each other and you still love each other. But now what is happening in the Gambia is that, because I heard, the latest pronouncement by a political party that I'm not going to name, I was shocked. I was telling someone today, I said, can you believe that now the strategy they want to use is to use the compound heads? So ita bada korda min kono, isa ba suti yo nying, ibel diamala wale put kafe ita yanda karte fa la nyame. That is ridiculous.
Yes, ridiculous.
So I mean, so are you telling me those type of things they're gone? So no, how can a compound head dictate to a youngster who to vote for? So what are they trying to do? Maybe they're trying to get people's voter cards. No, that should not be taken from them. So these are things, that's why Gambia, we can never go anywhere. If you go back, I've said this over and over again, and we have to go back to history. And to see how when we were kids, how these political leaders fought each other. And no one had any sense of direction to say that we are here to build our country. We can have political differences. No, some people would prefer, can you believe your uncle, I believe, Abbas Manneh, can you compare him with the candidate who won in Sanamentary?
No.
I mean, this is something to me that, and in fact, some of the people in the other political party are now saying that they made a mistake of selecting people who didn't have the caliber or what it takes. But what actually I'm concerned about is the selfishness of, because we all know that GRTS is actually government owned, so they're going to endorse everything. But my biggest disappointment is QTV. Because, okay, this is what I don't understand. So where was Honorable Halifa Sallah? What was his position? How can you only invite 3 media outlets, but then you deny other people coming in? This is totally un-Gambian. And I'm telling you, if we don't come together and try to find something, because if you hurt one person in a group, you hurt everybody. So if people cannot come together to solve this problem, it's always the case. These young, talented men and women, should rise up and say, no, this is totally unacceptable. And as a matter of fact, when it comes to this draft constitution, I don't think it's going to pass, because last time they came here to Minnesota, this was way back in 2019. I did tell the gentleman, that somebody's going to drag their feet on this. And what's going to happen? We're going to go back to the old constitution. In my view, actually, what was wrong with Sadauda's constitution? Because if we say that it was a soldier's constitution, why are we even actually endorsing such a constitution? And in fact, if you look at all these things happening in the Gambia, that's why we cannot have functional administrative responsibilities. In most ministries, you have two permanent secretaries, permanent secretary one, permanent secretary two, and they don't even look at the caliber of education. When I was growing up, for you to be a commissioner, you must have a bachelor's degree. And then you have to start from there. And going up all the way until you become a permanent secretary. But in the Gambia now, you don't need a college education. So which means that education in the Gambia is not taken seriously. And that is why when you go overseas, you come back home with your education, people don't value you. They value only money. And in our country, what is happening in the Gambia, and I will say it, is that people only look at instant gratification. Instant gratification. What they can have from you today. They don't look at the human capital that you have in your head. With your knowledge in information systems. How on earth can anyone even think of giving cash money to someone to go and make payment throughout the country? So if you don't have any controls over that thing, how on earth can you actually ascertain, that this person who you gave the money to would go and render all that money to the people? So we have ghost employees in our government, people who have died years and years ago. I can even tell you a similar case that happened to me as a youngster when I first actually got a job at the Gambia Service Department, only for 1 week. Then I got called to come and work at the commercial bank. As a youngster, I did not know the people who called me, just come and sign a document. You know how you were so happy that you were working at a place and then all of a sudden somebody calls you and say, I got a job for you at the bank. As a youngster, I didn't even care what. I signed this paper and someone told me, do you know that you actually sign your salaries to those people? And that really happened in the Gambia to me as a youngster. So we don't have any controls whatsoever. The Gambia Revenue Authority, you talk about no controls. And for us who live in the West Coast region, and that's why I do believe, that the Sana mentoring, with people in Commonwealth, you should have your own administrative area. Because if you look at the population of Commonwealth, it's more than the population of Kuntaro administrative area. These are things that we as Kombunkers, I don't care whatever you say, whether you support UDP or any other political party. But when it comes to our rights and privileges, we can have development. If you look at all the hotels adjacent to Brufut, and you talk about the massive tax that they collect, and your town is not even benefiting. You look at Sukuta, the same thing. And look at the OIC. This is one area that I'm really upset over this. Because we as Kombunkers, this is one area we need to stand up and say, no, everybody is, in a sense, you discriminate directly or indirectly. But what is the rationale? What is the rationale for you to have OIC in Sana mentoring? Since its inception, I want you to tell me a Kombunker who was appointed in the executive. No, let's be realistic, man. So these people take us for granted. With any other political party, they take us for granted. And yesterday I said, as long as you live in Combo, you are a Gambian. So don't tell me that my parents come. Yeah, you can say whatever you want, that your parents come from somewhere. But, the saddest thing is that, and in fact, let me just say something here. The Imam, the Alcalo of Basori, who passed maybe 10 days ago, Jabang, Bakausu Fofana, did a very good, he spoke at his funeral. And he talked about how nice the Kombunkers are. And up to today, we are nice people. Say you come to somebody's compound asking for a plot of land. Normally you come with kola nut. And that was Islamic. Now, no, but we don't regret what we have done. But Kausi actually talked so good of Kombunkers. But now you see what is happening. We are not saying you go back home, but we are saying that what our forefathers did, and they are smiling in their graves, We as folks and sons and daughters of Combo should emulate such things and remind these people that we are all Gambians. But under those circumstances, most you laugh at me because, my parent or your grandfather or your great grandfather, gave land to you. And look at what Yaya Jammeh did, and we should talk about it because this is something that is so. So you believe you talk about the Brookwood Heights. No, this is pitiful, man. How many compounds are there? And look at those $1 million houses sitting over there. And now if you say that at least even 5%, because if you, as a Gambian, can build a $10 million house, I don't see a reason why you cannot afford to pay 20,000 Gambian dollars taxes. And maybe Brookwood can benefit at least, 15% of the taxes. These are things that we should be able to engage the area council. If we are not in violation of any act, like our people in Pirang are trying to do, what I wrote to somebody today and I asked, can you engage the area council to see if they're gonna put up new houses in this subdivision that you think is gonna take almost 1,000 compounds. Now we would like to know, because that is regressive tax to the people who have their compounds ever since we were small little children. You pay $100. So if I have a $5 million a house and I pay the same $100, how can we develop our regions? In the United States, I don't know about England. Education is funded by real estate taxes. That's what they use to fund local education. But in the Gambia, it's the opposite. So if we enumerate all the compounds, starting from the point of West Coast region, all the way down on Senegambia Highway, I bet you will have almost more than 2,000-3,000 compounds there. And if we can try to find how much revenue we would collect and try to say that these villages that are in this area or these towns that are in these areas should benefit at least 15 to 20 to 30% of the tax revenue, real estate taxes that they pay, or property taxes, to develop education, that we can have quality education. So when we talk about the fact that the kids don't even have TV, we don't have any access to the internet, it's because of poor planning. Pura should also come up with this, because I do support the young man, Mr. Fall, who is trying to bring another internet service to the Gambia. Should you tell? But they are stopping him. So the average Gambian, how many telephones do they have? Have we even done any study to say that the money you remit to Gambia every month, do we know the percentage of that goes into telephone or internet? Because any average Gambian that you meet on the street has at least 2 telephones. So these are things, how can we develop our country? So when we sit down, but again, I also fault the opposition. Because the reason why I'm saying that, you cannot just sit squarely and just try to throw all these bombs at Barrow government. My argument is this. Okay, we have a problem. But I don't think the Barrow administration will send anyone away if you want to have an open dialogue with them. Any of these political parties, if they can go to the State House and have an open dialogue, I think Barrow will be willing to listen. But when we sit down and then say anything, the parasites will take over. Those who benefited under Jammeh are the ones who are now benefiting more. And again, another area that I'm very concerned about in our poor country, because we're talking about COVID, but we're talking about coexistence. Because I heard this from a good friend who, last name So, he said that someone even asked him, because he was fair-skinned, whether he was from Guinea. So this is something that is very frightening to me. And, my last name is Conteh, so if I go to Guinea Conakry, if I cannot speak the Susu language, and I say Conteh, somebody will think I'm from there. But, unfortunately, I can't speak Susu. So, but in the Gambia, do you know what is happening, to our brother Fullers? People are approaching them, even asking them whether they were born in Gambia. They even ask you where your father was from. So these are things that are so frightening. And again, so this COVID thing has brought so many things to us. But at the end of the day, what our our late fathers did, our parents, our grandparents, what they did for people who came in was what we should try. We should continue on with that tradition. I know that the days of giving land, they are all gone, because you cannot just go out and give out land to anybody. But Dave, I was just wondering, I sat down, looking, I called someone, I said, okay, so with all this heavy rain that happened in the Gambia, I said, so maybe you don't, use to our area, because anyway, so if you pass Kembuje and you go into Serakundanding, I say, you see all that vast land sitting there? The person say, yes. I said, they are all sold. I said, but grass is growing on them. He said, yes. And no farming activity. So this is what I don't understand with the Ministry of, because even in Combo, I don't know about your area, but for us in Combo Central and going into Combo East, do you know that we have vast land sitting there, even if you own it, but there is no fence around it. It is raining. Nobody is doing any farm activity whatsoever. So what is happening, is that, so we are now in the local compounds, local villages now. You see people, instead of going to the farm to farm, do you know that even tomatoes in my own village, do you know they go to the market to buy onions? They go to the market to buy it. Oh, I tell you what, my headmaster, the late John Jao, may his soul rest in peace. He divided us into four teams. We had to get up 5 o'clock in the morning to come and do what? And water our gardens. And we had to go back there at 7 o'clock before the sun sets down to water again. And I remember this guy from, I think he was from Kuntaro. I think so, not Brikamaba. But guess what this man would do? As poor children, he would get us to even fill these barrels filled with water from the well. And then he'll have one barrel empty. And then he will tell us to push the one that was full with water. Right? And then when we couldn't, he would say empty. He said, and then he would say, push the one that didn't have any water in it. And as you push it with your finger, as the barrel one, he would say, empty barrels make the most sound. So basically, this man taught us to learn variety of things, meaning gardening. And you could see all the vegetables. I remember the late Louis Njai used to come over there. And you talk about all the directors of education used to come to Farababan, the primary school. This was a headmaster who actually said to us that even though you are going to school, you cannot sit down and don't go and help your parents on the weekend to work on a farm. But now what is happening in the Gambia is that everybody is folding their hands. But I also blame us in diaspora. Because if you can send 150 British pound sterling to someone in Brufut, they're going to stay home. But this is one area. So as we see this COVID-19, with people who are in diaspora, they have the inability to send the remittances that they used to send. Now we have people saying that call Kolera Gambia, but call man Kolera Gambia ni wakil data ita do kola. So these are things, but again, what I want to dwell on is this thing you were talking about, having those things on TV for our kids to learn. So these are areas that we need to, because I'm telling you, I've listened to some even educated folks, supposedly educated people in the Gambia. Their command of English is very bad. But what we are saying, this new generation of Gambians, I would like to know, since this COVID came, the quality of education in the Gambia, has it increased or decreased? In my view, it has totally decreased. So from March all the way to now, we are in September, almost the 15th of September, the government doesn't have any plan whatsoever. So you have the kids stay home, nothing to do. So if you're from the village, you can't even afford to have 3 square meals a day. You tell me, in the village, how are you going to be able to watch TV, and how many people even have TV? And how about the sporadic electricity that we have in our country? So an empty stomach cannot learn. So basically, this is what is happening, because we tend to believe that in order to sustain ourselves for any development, we have to turn to the Western countries for our sustainability. And these are things that we should not. Our brains are the same. I teach here, and I see Caucasian students. They are not better than Gambian kids. They are not better than Gambian kids. They are not performing more than Gambian kids. In fact, the University of the Gambia that we all had doubts about, and I will admit, Gambia, those students who graduated from UTG came here to the United States, and I know they came to England. They were able to get their masters, and some of them were able to complete their PhDs. So we have the talent, but if the opportunity is not given to Gambians, it's very terrible. And I want to end with this thing: a gentleman who actually had a writing contest for Gambian kids. He lives here in the United States. He contacted me to do this, and I was supposed to be one of the graders. Because of the poor internet, can you believe? Poor internet. They were not able to even scan the documents. So he was telling me that parents were calling him constantly to help, and so forth. So again, the government, and that's what when I argued about this fact that, why should we even have 18, 19 ministries? As poor as we are in the Gambia, why should we have 19 ministries? Why should we have all these permanent secretaries? And some people say, I say, no, the permanent secretaries, you don't need 2, 3 of them, and the per diems. In fact, when Barrow went to Niger, I almost flipped. People are dying in our country. You are taking a plane to go to Niger. And why can't you do Zoom? I blame all the African leaders. What was so important in making the president of Ghana to be the chair of ECOWAS for 2021? How come he couldn't stay in Ghana and accept that nomination for African leaders to stay in their own countries? But no, our president chose to do what? To use a private plane. No, this is becoming too much for us in the Gambia. So for me, I'm independent, and I would say independent because if I have to vote, maybe it will die, because that's the political party that I believe will not steal a dime from Gambians. But if we had Halifa Saleh as president, I don't think we'll be in this problem again. But as far as I'm concerned, what is going on in our country? No, we need a system change. But if we can only do it, let's do it with unity. But if we are not united, I am just sitting as an independent, because we cannot afford to waste another 5 years. This is so deplorable that it is totally, totally unacceptable. So what I'm saying here is this: if you are in the opposition, be man enough, be woman enough to engage the president. Go to the State House, sit down with the president, because you are hearing from your constituents. You live in the neighborhood. They are sufferings and so forth. But if one going to sit down and criticize from outside, you are not making any effective change. And we need to have tolerance in our political deliberation. And so forth. I didn't tell me what a combo combo doesn't include only one tribe. Combo consists of every tribe. So when we try to differentiate ourselves based on, because I listened to an audio and I was very, very disturbed by that. And I told the gentleman who sent it to me, I said, you tell that young man, Mandinkola Akadiyama Sifa Minki Mandinkola Kumofo, Billa Wentenia Torale. That if you release this to any other any other person from another tribal group, so if you claim, and then they alaga tonya for you, Nimandi Abajanka tonya for until Gambia Batelale. Kafoko dollars theater. Math. You have 42%, equal out of the theater. 58% do Obetaranya did do. So then to control theater. O Sido Olbemenekala. For all the Kafulanyoka. So, in fact, Gambia, we should be very proud as Gambians that we have the highest per capita intermarriage in Africa. In other countries, they marry by tribe. So, we should be able to come together as one Gambia, despite our differences. Because Nkongo Bella, ika political party means support. What they feel like ndo nun kukada ni idingo fata wana de fata wande bade ndo fata ha ika political party men support wote bade la de e bade on lebina nyokale kafu nyoke nga nyosar so ni man na kafu ko nga kafu nyoka ka political ndo mo NCP la nunde basara ndo la political party fata le bare nyen Gambia political kata nyame ni man sing adiyamu ha nyin koda ata diala ndo naman diyamin bina kela ini mo be siring atole bina sobela nyola donc Gambia man ko banko sifa denko kondu muslim molati even if you are a Christian I think in our country we need to come together and then I'm going to give you a chance to talk but
It's okay.
I also want to dwell on these pharmacies that are in the Gambia and how our medical doctors are selling their license to these Indians and Chinese for $65,000. They are mortgaging the Gambia more health. Most of those pharmacies in the Gambia, they all have 75 to 80% of them have fake medications. But we have a government that is not putting up controls. So I rest my case, man. Let me allow you to speak, please.
It's okay. Yeah, Dr. Conteh, no, that's very valuable contribution as always. Somebody, what's it called? Mr. Jamme Bojan. Yes, he's basically saying thank you. He said, I can't agree more. We have Combo Iwaka for the renewal of Combo. So we need to come together, citizens of this rich heritage, to be counted. We owe nobody an apology for organizing ourselves to develop Congo. Thanks for highlighting the land issue. Yeah, I think that's Mr. Jambe Boja from Lamine. Yes, yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Jambe. Yeah, Mr. Dr. Conteh, thank you so much. Those were very, very substantial, and you went quite in depth to the public commentary of our situations back home. What the situation is right now back home is unacceptable. But COVID-19, what it's done for the whole world anyway, is the biggest, greatest social change the world has ever seen. So the world is changing forever. So it's also giving us an opportunity. Every country, every community, every society, this is giving us an opportunity to look back and reflect, and then maybe turn a new page. I know this becomes a cliche for Gambians, really, because if you have to cast your mind back to when we thought we got rid of Yaya Jammeh and then where we are today, it's quite sad. But still, we can't afford to lose hope. I think we can go on hoping that tomorrow will be better, but we can't just live on hope either. So we have to put some practical mechanisms in place that will make us realize what we did and what we aim for, what we aspire for. And we deserve it. We deserve these changes. It needs to be... it's about time. It's been a long time. So I was just gonna touch on about the bloated bureaucracy we have in the Gambia. I think if they tell you the amount of ministries and then permanent secretaries, like you mentioned, it's ridiculous, really. I don't think. Sometimes we only think about the administration in the Gambia. To me, I know it sounds like I don't want to go over the top, but it feels like criminal negligence sometimes the way they behave, because there's no rhyme or reason. It's no common sense to it. Why you can have such bloated bureaucracy when people are living in such abject poverty? You think, you read the stories, you hear the news on social media through WhatsApp that women are losing their lives giving birth. A pregnant woman, been pregnant for 9 months, that's actually a challenge. But at the moment of giving birth, you lost your life, and you even lose, you lose your life, and the kids also lose their lives. I think that's criminal. So this is becoming common occurrence in the Gambia. So those are all unacceptable. And then going back to what you were saying about the media, I think Doi was there today. You questioned what Halifa was doing. It's interesting, the clip I got. There was a guy there. He said Doi was trying to, I think today was the first day of the radio broadcast, and they were trying to specifically cater to people who were hearing and sight, who are sight and hearing challenged. So this guy today was meant to be his first day, and then he was very, very looking forward to be in the House of Parliament, or the National Assembly, as they call it in the Gambia. But then they weren't allowed in. So he was standing outside and they were interviewing him, and you could see how upset he was, because there's a specific group in the Gambia who people were in catering to. So he was catering to these people who were sighted and then visually challenged and then hearing challenged. Well, so today was meant to be a day for them. And then this outrage that happened at the House of Parliament today, I think is criminal. So this guy couldn't go in. So that's just to touch on what Halifa was doing. Yeah, it's a genuine question. Yes, really, why didn't Halifa and others come out to complain? But I don't want to put any judgment here because probably they were not aware. I'm not too sure. But what the video clip I saw, it really it outraged me. I was really enraged about it. I think it's very unfortunate and it's unacceptable behavior. Really, I don't know whoever decided that in Barrow's government that they could just selectively invite free media houses and the rest of the fraternity were not allowed for whatever reason that is. I think that's it's unacceptable. So, I think you were talking about Barrow's government, how inefficient it is. And I think I'm going to borrow, I think this is from Mr. S.O. Williams in his interview. And then I think he made a very important point here, whether him or the guy who interviewed him, Mr. Boch. He said, if he go into a coalition, in effect, you are part of the government. So we went into a coalition because we had great hopes and high hopes. And then, but this coalition government is not working for us. But then you went into a coalition. So how do you become an effective opposition? An opposition anywhere else is meant to be government in waiting. So you have a shadow prime minister, if you want to call it that. In the UK, we call it, the head of the leader of the opposition. And you have whoever is, if it's the minister of education, you have a shadow secretary of education. So they have their policies, you have your policies, and this is what you discuss. So what you have political discussions in the Gambia, they become of substance. Instead, what we have is like gallantry in there. It's a joke sometimes. You have few people who are very serious and they want to take Gambians politics. They want to turn a new page with it. And you have the vast majority of the people who don't even understand basics of what politics is meant to do for our people. For them, it's also about like empowering themselves and like giving themselves positions in power and their position in our society. But the common good, the common Gambian, I think that's like that's really the last thing on their mind. So how do we move away from that? So Gambia, the government as it stands right now is not fit for purpose. But we don't have the oppositions we have in the Gambia. They leave a lot to be desired. I don't think they are very effective either. So if we don't have a shadow, what's it called, secretary for state, shadow secretary for lands, whatever you want to call them, how can you mount an effective challenge to the government's policies? So that is a major problem. And then you mentioned about people assuming other people been foreigners. This is last year, I think it was, or probably earlier this year. Mr. Ibrahim Sankare was giving a story. I think it was his niece. He said a lady who was born in Brikama, and he wanted to get some papers, ID papers, and they were questioning his Gambianness because of her last name. How can you believe this? How can somebody be like whether he's the Minister of Immigration, whatever they call Department of Immigration? How can you just assume that because somebody, whether is the shade of their skin, that they might not be Gambian? Who is Gambian, really? That's really outrageous. And another thing I want to touch on again, you mentioned this. This is decentralization or devolution, if you want to call it that. And I've spoken about this a lot of times with people. I think I use Western Division or what they call it now, West Coast region. That is too big. Having everybody on the West Coast region being represented in Brikama Area Council, what they call it, I think that shouldn't happen anymore. I think it needs to be decentralized. And somebody told me that obviously this is possible, but also we probably will need an act of parliament or act of national assembly. You guys have to forgive me. I'm so used to using parliament because obviously I live in England, but in the Gambia they use I think they call it the national assembly, so that we can enact some laws which will empower the government or local government or whatever they call it, which other ministry they fall under, to make it possible for Brikama Area Council or West Coast region to become a little bit more decentralized. So, for example, if we say, let's say, from Sukuta to Brufu to Bijilo, that end, maybe they could have their own council. And then obviously, if you go to Pirang and other places too, they could do that. And for you could probably also do that as well. And then I was having this conversation with somebody who told me, yeah, but you got to also remember some parts of West Coast region probably have more revenue generative capacity than others. I said, okay, we can come to some sort of arrangement. We have that here in the UK. I mean, London alone actually contributes to places like Manchester because London gets more money because of the businesses that are here. They pay more taxes, so they can do that. And then through the devolution we have as well, you have Scotland and Wales. England can provide some money to Scotland and Wales. So there are templates we can use back home. But as we stand right now, Brickham Area Council is not fit for purpose, and I think it's bloated. That's just, for example, you can say there's nothing new there. The central government is bloated, obviously. It's a bloated bureaucracy, and it's very inefficient. It's very ineffective. I think that's more. There's reason there more than anything else to actually make sure that it's devolved. Yeah. So when it comes to places like Brufut, again, we have big cities now in the Gambia. And I'll use Brufut as an example because I'm from there. I left a long time ago now, you can say. But the place is massive. I think we come to the stage whereby Brufut doesn't need an alcalo anymore. Yeah. Brufut needs somebody who's going to represent them. They have to vote for them so that they become much more responsible. They can become more accountable to the people. You can't just say because I'm a Manneh, my people live there for 200 years. That should just qualify me to be an alcalo. We don't need an alcalo anymore. These places like Brufut, Sukuta, Gunju, these places are big now. We don't need alcalos anymore. People need to vote on them. They copy their policies. They can stand as political parties or independents, and we judge them on what they can bring. We have to move to a stage in the Gambia whereby you can't just say, "Oh, I'm part of this political party." We want to see what policies we have. What can you do for us? Because we have the same system for 60 years. We've not made any progress. We want to turn a new page. So we want to move on people telling us, this is what I can do. You take politics seriously. If you want to represent me, you do your research. Yeah? Employ people, recruit people, let them go out and do some research for you. Take sociologists, take political scientists, take students, speak to people, ask them and say, what are your needs? And you come to me with whatever you want to call it, with a pamphlet or whatever you want to call it. I'm not too sure. Just tell me this is what I can do for you. Then we vote for you. But places like Brufut, Sukuta, Gunjur, we need to move away from having an alcalo because it's either a Manneh in Brufut. You have to be a Manneh, you have to be a Sane, mostly Manneh and Sane. Even though once we had a Boja, but it's always Manneh, Sane. We can't do that. Yeah. So we need to move. Is Manneh there? Is Sane there? Is Jawara there? Is Bojan there? Those are the four big Kabilus. But now Brufut is much bigger now. We got Tubabs there, we got Arabs there, we got people from other parts of West Africa and other parts of the Gambia. They are part of us. So they need to have a say in who represents Brufut and Gunju and Sukuta and Pira. So let's have mayors there now. Let's decentralize. That's going back up, basically just buttressing your point about decentralization, which I think is very, very urgent and I think is timely. And I think we need to look into it, Mr. Dr. Conteh. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again, Mr. Jammeh Bojang. I guess he got named after maybe the late Jammeh Sane of Brikama, an uncle of mine. But let's go back here. A few months ago, I think 2 months ago, where husband and wife, I think they died in the United Kingdom? Or they came to visit and they went back home. One died on a Friday, and I think the other one died the next day. And they were buried, and it was so painful because never in the history of the Gambia would you have, based on Islamic burial rites, where these people were put in plastic bags, and people who were burying them had shoes, and they had gloves, and they went to bury them, and their family members were standing watching. And I think after that burial, one of their friends also died two days later. So this was something that has changed the dynamics of Gambians, how things that had happened before, never had happened, have happened now. Another incident, was the burial in Sukuta. where they almost had a fight.
Oh.
And the one of the volunteers who was in the Red Cross bearing people actually was a person from Sukuta. So when people were about to fight, he actually took his hood up just for them to see him, and that's when they stopped. So here you had your own son coming in as a volunteer at Red Cross to bury someone, and some family members were upset. So he was the one who actually disclosed his identity, and it stopped. So let's also go back to the invitation of only three media outlets. What I don't understand, again, I fault the media again in a way, is that if you're going to have parliamentary sittings or National Assembly sittings, you should be able to engage the National Assembly on the invitation of media outlets. Don't wait until the very day. So I fault the Speaker of the National Assembly, and this is why I was saying that. Why should we have a Speaker of the Gambia National Assembly appointed by the President? So her independence is impaired. Because if she says no to Barrow, her job is in jeopardy. So we had this colonial idea since our daughter's time, where the Speaker of the House is appointed by the President. Therefore, that person is going to do whatever the President tells him or her to do. Another area that you talked about, because I have been a victim, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to reveal what happened to me. But the coalition. Well, when the coalition came, we all were happy. But again, you remember what they did to us from Combo. Not a single Combonka was appointed as a minister. And no one can tell me that was an oversight. No, it was intentional. And do you know that I have a clear message from someone who said even one of the ministers said, Atol Kombonkolo. A minister in the coalition who actually was belittling people of Combo. So this is where we, as Kombonkers, we welcome anyone to live in Combo. If you want to act any other way, you can. But we are saying here that we have been marginalized to a point where we, the sons and daughters of Combo, should stand up. So if we don't speak on behalf of our people, who else is going to speak on our behalf? I want to talk in defense of Ibrahim Sankare. And I want to tell you, that his mother, I met his mother. And when she came to visit us in Raleigh, she came to visit her son in Raleigh, North Carolina. I went to visit her. And she said something to me that is still will be with me. To warn Sankare about our family relationship. So I can attest to you that Sankare's mother was born in Nyomi. And I can attest to you that Sankare actually was born in the Gambia. And Sankare's father used to be a taxi driver, used to drive in the Serakunda garage to Banjul to Serakunda. So these are things, that are very frightening now. People are beginning to identify Gambians based on how you look. So if you are dark skinned, you are Igbo Gambian already. But Anita Koita, yeji warante ito yo ila last name jallalti ila last name baraleti. I have a good friend who actually was from Sukuta, and his mother, he told me, was Demba, and he was telling me his history. So I said, maybe you are the type of people we need in the Gambia. We call what they call that the president of Senegal. They had a name for him when he was running for president. Meaning that your mother and your daddy are from different tribes, and so therefore you are one person that can be appealing to us. And this is actually the benefit of intermarriage, because when you intermarry, your wife, if your wife speaks a different language, there shouldn't be any excuse for your child not to speak your language, because one of the politicians said that her biggest mistake was not to learn her maternal side's language. So the person trying to run for office, I say it's not too late. You can still learn how to do it. Because I don't think any Gambian, no one in the Gambia should be ashamed of speaking their language when they go out. I don't think there should be any identification to say that when you leave your compound, you only should speak one specific language. No, I disagree. because I disagree. So we should love each other. But if you prefer to speak your language, don't force your language on me. I think we can live, we can coexist. But again, my concern here is the education of our youngsters. We all benefited. I went to a Catholic school, and we were called Kurumetol, Yorfo. But the Reverend Fathers, every single morning, they would preach to us. And, anyone from St. Augustine's, I can tell you, I find someone who's not a radical. By default, you're gonna be crazy, because you've heard what the Reverend Fathers were telling you early in the morning. In fact, we lost our principal, the late Father Clary, Michael J. Clary, last week. I was in attendance when he preached to us about value systems, ethics. Don't take anything that doesn't belong to you, and be upright, speak right. But now we don't have that in the Gambia anymore. That used to be, a gentleman told me that when he was in prison, when the Jame took over and they locked him up, he said no imam came to visit. It was the Reverend Fathers, the reverends who came to visit. So we call ourselves Islamic country, but basically what is happening, is that it's so deplorable, because, you see people go, Kamorje Kata Sali. That doesn't mean that they actually practice the right, religion. And let me also talk about something here, because in the Gambia, Dave, I had a personal experience in Bakau. I will not name this gentleman. We talk about COVID, but we also can talk about existence. How about this? How about the people who actually have mental issues in the Gambia? And we have this COVID. Has anyone ever even gone around to see whether they have masks on? Do we know? I remember way back in 2019 when I was in the Gambia, there was this guy was using so much profanity. He was crazy. That's what the people said. So I call him and go, na number. I told the person, no, but no idea. So when the guy came in, guess what? I gave him some few dollars. Dave, do you know that man prayed for me? And the people were shocked. When I gave him the money, the guy prayed for me, and then he left. So next time when I saw him again, he was still agitated. I called him. The sooner I called his name, he came straight, stood right next to me. I gave him the money, he prayed for me also and left. But what I would like to know, I don't know whether, Dave, when you went to Bakau, as you come from, Reverend Forbes, the street that Reverend Forbes church is on, Forbes Church, I don't know whether you're familiar with that area. Bakau Newtown?
Newtown, no.
Okay. Let's go back. You know where the stadium is?
Oh, yeah.
The back side of that stadium, if you take that road, like you're heading towards Bakau, right at that junction there is a tree. A guy, a mentally challenged person sits over there. I'm wondering about that man today. So it seems like in the Gambia, we take care of people who we think they are of sound mind, but we don't know people who have mental issues, what kind of treatment they have in our country. And again, I want to also, go back, because yesterday I had a conversation with a gentleman who went to Sweden for treatment. And he told me something. He said, when I went to Gambia, I was fit. And when I ate, how we relax, eat anything we want in our country, he said, man, I could not even walk. So thank God he had his prescription with him. And then he went, so when his prescription ran out, he went to one of the pharmacies in Manjai Kunda. I cannot remember the street, but he told me, he said, do you know that I need to cut this off. I'm so sorry. I'll call the gentleman. So what he told me was that he took his prescription that he purchased in the Gambia from one of the pharmacies and went to one of the drugstores there, because in the Gambia we don't have any controls on dispensation of medication. He said he went to one qualified pharmacist, and the pharmacist did some experimentation on that. 75% of the pills were fake. Now he went out and told me again. He said that in our country, even the reputable pharmacists in the country, they've been compromised, by the foreign importers. That medical doctors in the Gambia now, they sell their license to these foreign importers of medication for 65,000 Gambian dollars. And again, he said that, do you know that even if you are sick and you are at the hospital, a medical doctor will tell you to meet him or her at the clinic. So tell me, if you are from the urban area and you have someone who lives in diaspora, chances are you may have the opportunity of that being taken care of. But how about if you are from a village like me, where you know that some folks don't even have, they rarely saw $5,000 at one time? How will that person be taken care of? And in fact, somebody had a picture on Facebook that where pregnant women were sitting down around a clinic and they were waiting to be observed. So again, I don't know, but we don't have any. It seems like when Jammeh left, people just came in to take advantage. And everybody is chasing the mighty Gambian dollar. So basically, this has actually affected our country. And I guess the Minister of Health is a very capable person, but with the responsibilities he has, and also I believe he's still the medical director of the Gambia. I don't understand how a minister, how he can be a minister and also hold the portfolio of medical director, even though he may have someone running the affairs of that department for him. But what is happening, Dave, but I don't understand, ever since I was a child, we have this Royal Victoria Hospital. And no one has found, now they call it Edward C. Francis Teaching Hospital. Banjul, in 50 years, in my estimation, will be covered by water. Because if you look at it, now what is happening, and then they are turning Banjul South into storage. And this government is not even seeing it to say, hey, wait a minute. Because if we want to have another port, do you know where we need to go? To Tanje. If you look at the map of the Gambia, you look at the location of Tanje, it's adjacent to Banjul and also almost adjacent to where? To Dakar. But our people cannot sit down and logically look at those things and say, well, before because you cannot go to Bakau because Bakau has a lot of rocks in the ocean there. But Tanja would be a preferable place to have. And if that's not the case, they can even use Bakau. Gunjur. But we don't have the foresight to have the capital in one place, where when it rains, the streets are covered, and now you are turning Banjul South to storage. Now, I can argue to say that Banjul South, the population, registered voters, hear me, 6,975. Do you know that? Banjul South has 6,975 voters. They have their own member of parliament. But we, the Kambankas, you look at Brufut itself. So these are things that we, as whether you belong to Kombo Yoruba Kafo or if you don't belong to it, but we are talking about the issues of Kombo because we have been totally marginalized. If you look at Janjambure Makati, do you know the total registration? 1,980 registered voters, and they have their own MP. Nyamana Dankunku, less than 4,000 registered voters. They have their own MP. But we in Kombo South, 45,000 registered voters. Sana Mentoring, I believe it's 37,000 registered voters. So you tell me, do we have equity in the distribution of proportional representation? No, we don't. So, but then when you try to engage, one thing I have found out in the Gambia, they bribe us with this mentality of this alcaldoship and this chieftaincy. I think the alcaldoship should be an elected office. I believe that these chieftaincies should be abolished totally. Because moment kodaman fisia kodao kodat. Ni se fia kunade. Modo kanyo sonkale modole amreko tole fisada multi. So do you know that I approach one name, it's so sad. Okay, you know that when the former minister on the Sadauda's government, minister of local government and lands, said that all lands in Combo belong to the government. It was our member of parliament of Combo East, Lamine Conteh, who said, no, it wouldn't happen in Combo East. That documentation is still alive and well. Do you know, talking to our alcalos and chiefs, they are scared to disagree with the government, to say that the school, the University of the Gambia that is coming to Faraba, that they are building, why would they have to say that from the middle of the university all the way to Basori belongs to them? I teach at a state university that has more colleges than university, that has more students than the University of the Gambia. But now this is how they are using to our people. Even in Pira, they are saying, oh, nyanta 500-meter dealer Kabula Kadi University. Let's go and investigate this. But we don't have the alcalo to stand up to say do man safe also to me along about kela kad na dia da fana be sala ko iba bonde safe yala. So Dave, this is the problem we have in Combo. And then this is the problem we have in Combo. We have people to say no more banta dreko ha adoma ka alkaloti, and that person may not even have the foresight, may not even have the administrative capability of making decisions to run. So these are things, so all of us are here in diaspora, but we know what happens in our absence. You go back home, your plot of land is sold by a family member because Molokapoko, I tell a CRT today, so I take fair from 40 and Tamala. So basically, this is the problem. And the same thing happens to places. In Fonyi, you go to Kiang and so forth. I was telling a young man who is from Nyomi, I said, how far is your village from Bara? He said 7 kilometers. I said, have you taken control of your land? He said, no. I said, why not? He couldn't answer me. I said, do you know if they finish all the land in Combo? Because someone told me that Nyomi Lameng Berending, they don't have any land anymore. All is gone. So we are sitting down here in the Gambia where, our poor farmers, we are the ones who are sending money to them to survive. But what I'm talking about, how about our children and our children's children? Will those people be able to send money to the Gambia? And with the advent of this COVID, it's something very frightening, and our government has not taken any serious thing. How can you go out there and give 37 million US dollars? And I asked the government, I said, so you have cash? They say yes. I said, do you know it's a loan? They couldn't answer me. I said, because the World Bank, it's not possible. It's not possible for a World Bank to give an African politician 37 million US dollars. They're not going to do it. If they're going to do that, it's in the form of loan. So here we have in the Gambia, whereby that we are a highly indebted nation, whereby it was almost 129% to GDP. Now our debt, and Greece filed for bankruptcy when the ratio of the debt to GDP was 140. In the Gambia, we cannot. You talk to an average Gambian administrator in the government, all they talk about is funding. I say, but what do you mean by funding what? We have to get money from outside. And most of our government officials, they are so fixated with this idea of trying to go out there to sensitize the people. They're going to have this workshop upon workshop upon workshop and so forth. So we are not talking about how we can improve education, how we can improve agriculture. Our concern in the Gambia is that we want to go out there to borrow, to beg. So I come in the way because Gambia budget. Let me tell you this: Gambia, 60% of Gambia's budget is internal. 40% of Gambia's budget is through borrowing and grant. So you talk about grant money, moko aye promise. For Barrow birin Barrow tada EU, people were saying that Barrow was coming up with 1.45 billion Gambian dollars, so, euros. So we haven't even received 20% of that. Because one me along go be siri but dolomingola, you can hear promise code, they're gonna give you this amount of money, and then turn out that was just pure lies. Or even if they did, they don't have the resources to do that. And here we have a nightmare of the Gambia National Network, whereby we have sporadic shortage of electricity. And for the life of me, Dave, you took a bale of rice and took it home. But for the life of me, what I don't understand, when I saw this, I couldn't believe this. Morocco, Samabe Keke came and Giosoro. Fontol Birin Tolmo didn't know what were we doing? For bigger Boko Tanga corrugator Jeboaka. I'm not telling you to drink that, but somebody told me, yes, you can drink that water if you boil it. But it seems like Gambia sa minketa, mobaye bro kenyo kantenne. Ibe siri ka fo masakunda em makoi, warantela mo mbeti wa abdu woli em makoi. And my friend, this is why we cannot develop. Now you see how foreigners come in, and then they gradually, instantly become so successful. But until we are sitting down, you sit down and you wonder the amount of time. Because I talked to a Gambian academician. I told him, I said, this is the time that you no longer should belong to a VU. When you get out there, either you go somewhere else, you think about writing something, or try to be a consultant for Gambians who are in diaspora. Because Gambians in diaspora now are dying to find people you can trust to even build a herd for you in the Gambia. Because anything you want to do, if you put your family members there, 80 to 90% of the time, and then they come up with this idea, Nate Metala Kodota, Jamala Batala. So as we get older, for me, I teach in a classroom. Maybe if I sit in a wheelchair, I can sit and teach. But some people who don't have the liking of try to stand up and talk to people, and they want to go into their small little corners, anyone here in diaspora, we have to appeal to each other. Alinga kata. Hana bekale 50 by 50 plot of Lania Soto. Yake agriculture. Billahi nitara Gambia sida je. Isaba alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Because this is the year mirror 10 years ago, if anyone were to tell you ko Burfoot Heights bedamin sign 10, or 20 years ago, Motada ko Burfoot Heights bedamin 20 years ago. Ko sa bungo lebetar la je. Isafa mare ko imantara tonya foka. So our country is in real need, but I really think that collectively we can work together. As an independent person, I still believe that we can engage the government to tell them their shortcomings, and I think opposition should be willing to have a shadow government, like you said. Anything that the government lacks, explain it to the citizens. But I come to Gambia, the only time you hear politicians is when they go to campaigns. Ni meeting back a rally back a diamu, ye kumol for ye bari. If the opposition leaders had said something to the Barrow administration, I didn't all dismiss since March of 2020. Didn't know the mantara karambola sa, we be karano no nyadi le. Iko mole ko alta television al ke la mola, wala ta radio to. Mo jele radio soto sa te kono. And then also you can say, okay, in Brufut, I know that you had a Mr. Juara who was a headmaster, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So how about the sons and daughters of Brufut? Maybe even we can have an open space. If it doesn't rain, for you to gather at least 20 kids and help them. But we don't have this voluntarism in the Gambia anymore. It seems like Gambia culture yellow to a point where it's so scary that everyone I come to mobile find the science. Nafa. So it's a very troubling time for our country, but I do believe that if we all come together as one, regardless of our political orientations, regardless of our differences in politics, and try to say, let's find a common ground to develop our country. Because if we shine as Gambia, if Gambia shines, we all shine. But when we try to politic our way based on Seko, ndolbe coalition or tole, but it any moma in baroman bang, so momo mi along ben coma left a barola government bula. So a barola government bula, so Moli along be steering with they were benefiting on the Jame. Now those people have taken what? They seized our government. And they are the ones who are benefiting. Can you believe Nimo Kodeko way back in October of 2016? Because we would have a change of government, whereby the people who were in the front now are the ones who are in the back. You will say, no, that won't be true. But that's the reality we have in our country. So I'm going to end here to say that politics is not based on hate. Politics should not be based on humiliation. Politics should be based on love. Politics should be based on coexistence. Let's come together as Gambians. Despite our differences, I think if we come together, we can develop this small little country with a population of 2.5 million people. I rest my case.
Thank you so much, Dr. Conteh. Thank you so much, Dr. Conteh. We're actually running out of time. About 3 minutes, so we've got about 3 minutes. So your phone is echoing. Yeah, well, I think, it's fine. It's okay now. Yeah, I think, that's a nice way to wrap it up anyway, because we got about about 1 minute now, 2 minutes. But I think it was very useful conversation, as always. There's so much to learn from you, and I like the energy. Yeah, I just wanted to add, before we close up, we got 1 minute anyway. I just look at the rainwater in the Gambia. I know Mr. Manjang had a guy, Mr. Lamine Conteh, I think last month. This guy had he did a lot of wonderful research. We can even harvest this rainwater and then build things like levees to control when we have the flooding around places like Fajikunda and Fajikunda and Joshua and other places. He did wonderful work. So I think it's rather unfortunate they have Gambians taking it upon themselves to do a lot of good work, good research, but then they can never implement it. Because the political power, there's no political will back home, which can make them actually realize some of these things they put so much of their energy into. You can even say some of their own personal resources for the benefit of the Gambia, but they can never be implemented. I think Mr. Manta is going to try and have him back again. I think he's one Lamine Conteh. I think he lives in London. Yeah, he did amazing work. I was very, very impressed. So right now you got this flooding in the Gambia. This rainwater could be, it could be harvested. It could be harvested and stored, and we can use them for something else. But then I think we're going to end up here. We just run out of time. I think it's very useful. Like I said, it's always wonderful to have you, to have a chat with you. Today, unfortunately, Mr. Manjan couldn't come due to some unforeseen circumstances. And my dad, Banka, he also tried to come on, but he couldn't, unfortunately. But I think all in all, Dr. Conteh did a very, very brilliant job. Once again, I say thank you to our people who listen to us and people who watch us and people who interact with us. We actually would like more people to come interact with us more often, as much as possible. We're gonna say bye to you, everybody. Now, we hope we see you again on Monday next week, and on Saturday, myself and Mr. Manjang, we do have another chat here. Is to do with the Cumberland issue, but specific to Bruford. So we were doing that again on 3 o'clock on Saturday, UK time. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Conteh.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Listening to Empire Radio 1.
Everyone has a purpose, and it is this purpose you pursue that defines you. The reason why we, the Dalaba Eco located on the Gunjur Brikama Highway, is here is to create peaceful environment and conducive atmosphere for our esteemed guests. both nationals and those who choose the Gambia as their final destination. Our accommodations are modern standards, well-spaced and well-ventilated seminar and conference rooms. There is no other excellent venue for your birthdays and wedding programs than Dalaba Eco Lodge. So come and experience our affordable luxuries in sustainable environment. Our rooms are inside our gardens filled with sweet-smelling flowers and cozy feelings of nature. Frequent visits to the Gunjut Sandy Beach with our wonderful transport services at no cost is all the time available. To enchant your stay furthermore, at Dalaba Eco Lodge, we create the following: bird watching, bike rentals for visiting local markets, and many other places of interest, city tours and boat trips, etc. For more details, you can take the digits 00220 360 7043. Email dalabaecolodge78@gmail.com. Facebook Dalaba Eco Lodge Gambia. Book your places now to experience memorable adventures one cannot afford to miss.
Gambia may be the smallest country in Africa, but it will host the second largest gathering of world leaders in 2022. To successfully host the OIC Summit and put the Gambia on the global stage, the government of the Gambia set up OIC Gambia to mobilize resources for the implementation of key development and infrastructure projects on a scale never seen before. 20 new roads will be constructed across the country, and the Bertel Harding Highway will be expanded into a dual carriage highway of 2 lanes on each side from the airport to Sting Corner. All people in the Gambia deserve clean water and a constant flow of electricity. Therefore, an entirely new water system will be constructed, including new transmission and distribution networks to meet the increasing demand. In order to provide a more reliable supply of electricity, the OIC Gambia project will replace and double the capacity of the NAWEC transformers and overhead electric cables. We will equip the police with modern apparatus and technical training in an effort to keep the streets of the Gambia safe. By building the largest international conference center in the region, a 5-star hotel with state-of-the-art facilities, first-class mobility services, and improving the VVIP experience at the Banjul International Airport, OIC Gambia will position the Gambia as the leading conference destination in West Africa. With our partners in the tourism sector, we will reinforce the preeminent position of our nation, the Smiling Coast, as a go-to destination. The OIC Gambia will create strategic partnerships that calls for the involvement of local talent and businesses as a matter of requirement. In short, OIC Gambia projects will create jobs, boost commerce, accelerate growth, improve the urban outlook and lifestyles of many families across the Gambia. So let's support the OIC Gambia as it prepares us for one of the biggest global events. OIC Gambia, building today for a better tomorrow.
Gambia de asike itolle data banku to mali beti fata filla jang bari wo nyonya dunya la kafu ba fulla nyaw la nyaton ko le bembay mina wala jiala 2022 pour be ngoy nyinya ay la ko ngato di asoto je Gambia man sakunda e fero le landi ka OIC Gambia ka fo londi kana fulol kensu nyokan anin ka jorangol nyini pour ka yirwani nyato tata mandi men si fanne manje jan doto Gambia banko kan membita fo sila muwang ibe wala do kula ndu ibe batil hadin sila ba fanundi lale kake sila karaba fulati tarangoni naran karobela kabo airport fasting corner momo be sirin Gambia jang amuye nyantolti pour ka jisen ngosoto anin kurango menti tati lo mumo be kono nyin kamala jibor sila kuta jamala be didala ke janjandi anin ke tala pour ka jamala sulosi pour ka kuran sirngo di jamala OIC Gambia project be joseri kela anin ka sembe la fa ke nawek la transformers nyolla wala mo ila masingol men yalon ko ibe dulal to taring ani la kuran julolu men be janjandi dulalu to men na police kunda ma ko ila jamana la banjorangol to le me yalon ko be nindilale inyante muna fayle la nyamin ferolu koto membe Gambian be dolu kela dula tankari ngoti ni yirwa ko wal men be ko kanna conference center lo kanna airport be dida ku pour na luntan ku mal men be jila je ke bendung 5-star hotel kuto me yalon ko isulata jamana la bang jorango jorande batar la konole nyimbe mu fenneti membe Gambia faramansande la kake nyaton kati pour ka nyin conference falo jiya West Africa jang ninde nyomalu tourism la karola menyu lodu la bambandi la kaje ko Gambia e tenten kake nyaton kati tubabu luntan la dundim finto la banko kanjang nkana so muk yenna bandero jindi dunia be yello menna the smiling coast ka kumo suti yande OIC Gambia be doku soto bunda jamala wala na moliye kay safaro yirwande ka Gambia banko fango munungo yela mandi sakon na kombo tubabu banko ka felo nyinyandi bake nunga sininna dimba yalu balu nyalu faling woto alinga OIC Gambia fasa ba membe parendiri ke kan na banko ye pour ka dunia la nyimbe mbaka tango jia OIC Gambia ka doku ke bi pour na sama nafa